Good evening, SEC After Dark. Welcome in. We got an action-packed show for you. Florida's falling apart. Tennessee is not. We live in a parallel universe. We got an action-packed show for you. We are Willis Digital Media as of right now, but there's some things in the workshop as far as names go. So we're going to test out a few things. We're brought to you by AT&T Fiber. They didn't pay me to say that. They just upgraded me so that you can see me in the non-pixelated version. But like I said, we got an action-packed show. If you want to join in, the chat is set up. It's going to be blazing here in a minute. If you want to follow us, look down below. Right below Jake and Jeb is our social media information. And, of course, I can't do this whole thing by myself. So to help me carry this load is Stephen Willis, Jeb Beecham, and Jake Thomas. What's up, gentlemen? Cheers.
How you doing? Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. I don't have my drink on me, but cheers.
Oh, Jake with the early party foul.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, who had Kentucky being the only team to lose their first SEC basketball game? Who had that?
Not me.
After we lent them Severe Wheeler, I definitely didn't have that. Severe, come on back. So, well, like I said, our social media information is down below. What a week of college football last week. Purdue. I know this is not Big Ten After Dark, but Purdue, holy cow. They keep doing it. There was a particular play in that game that I want to talk about real quick before we jump into the actual SEC. There was a play where they did a reverse flea flicker running back screen where they had 5 blockers outside the numbers for 2 defenders. It was a thing of beauty. If you follow Dan Casey on Twitter, he has it actually isolated. Go check that out. It's ridiculous. So, hats off to Purdue. Jeez. Speaking of G's, what about Florida? What is going on with the Gators?
Let's bring these in. There's some rumors on Twitter that boosters in and around Gainesville for the University of Florida all of a sudden have a severe interest in Jeff Brom at Purdue. It's all circular. Bring it all back home. And this sounds like a Spurrier choice.
It does.
Yeah. And it would be a good choice, I think. Bad choice for you and I, Jeb. But it'd be a good choice for the University of Florida. They'll finally get somebody that's not a weirdo and that can recruit, that likes to recruit during the season, and doesn't kiss his players or has his wife make out with his players.
Or show up at the press conferences as Darth Vader.
Yeah, that too. Or, just anything goofy that you need, he's going to do it. Jeff Brom is not that guy. So, but yeah, Florida. I haven't seen Florida look that inept in quite some time. Maybe ever.
There was a game against Missouri under, maybe it was after Muschamp got fired, to where Randy, I forget the defensive coordinator's name. They went up there and Missouri kind of just stomped the hell out of them. That's what that kind of reminded me of.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But it was. I mean, you look at that game and all of a sudden it's 30-10, and I'm like, what in the hell?
Yeah. Is that the game where they had 2 of their own guys blocking each other? That Missouri game?
No,
that was Georgia Southern.
That was down in Florida. This was in Columbia, actually.
Okay.
The other Columbia. Maybe they just don't do well in Columbias.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. So the next year's game in Bogota should be fun. But there's a funny meme going around where Josh Van is so wide open. They made a video of like the things that he could have done in the end zone before the ball got there, before any Florida defender got to him. South Carolina football official Twitter account put it out. It is absolutely hilarious. Go watch it. I can't. If I summarize it, I'm not going to do it justice. But yeah, just go check it out. It's awesome.
Hey, South Carolina has a chance to get bowl eligible this week, and they have an absolute free shot to take down Clemson this year. It's in Columbia. They have a chance to win 7, and if before the season you told me they were going to win 7, I would have went and had you tested for craziness. Yeah, you just don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
you remember I said that they could potentially win 7 games.
Oh, listen to Jake. Listen.
No,
Okay, come on.
You can go back on the chat of this show and see where I said that.
Pull it up.
I'll find
He probably did say it.
Cassidy,
he probably
is that true?
screenshot it.
Wait, I'm sorry. Is this one of the teams that pulled their like someone on their coaching staff to be their quarterback?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody
Yes.
predicted they were going to win 7 games. You couldn't have. There's no way.
Zeb's
I would've
dead,
said
baby.
5.
Yeah,
Zeb's
Zeb
dead.
is gone.
Zayab's dead. Yeah, you look at their roster, you look at their schedule, you're like, well, maybe, but not really.
These guys are going to get the Birmingham Bowl or the Duke's Mayo Bowl or the Music City Bowl and take 45,000 people to this game because they weren't expecting to go to a bowl game, and they're just they're going to drink whatever town they're in dry.
Yeah, they're fan. Yeah, if they come to Nashville, it's on because they travel well regardless. Because I mean, they always had good showings in Tampa when they'd go play Michigan in the gate, whatever that bowl was.
Outback.
There you go. Had a brain fart there. So, but yeah, I mean, they played really well. They looked extremely motivated. They were in it. This is the best I've seen them look. It's the best I've seen South Carolina look in 2 years. It was just everything just clicked for them. Everything just came together, and you mix that with a Florida team that's just so unmotivated. So they finally got rid of Todd Grantham, which I'm glad they didn't do 2 weeks ago.
Overdue.
Yeah, very long overdue. My guy
Anthony Richardson hurt himself dancing before the game.
Yes.
So which TikTok dance do you think he was doing?
Dude,
And Jake, why were you doing it with him?
You know I'm too old for that, Corey.
I wasn't.
I'm too old for that.
I teach high school, so I have to hear about all this stuff. My kids are begging me to do a TikTok dance with them, and I just keep telling them no. So and that's what I guess motivates them more to ask me. But
I assume that the coach there, man, wow, now I'm blanking on his name. Dan Mullen. I assume that he fired Todd Grantham to basically try and save his job. But the way you're talking, you don't think it's going to work?
no,
No,
he's done.
No.
He's done.
I agree.
Yeah, and then there's this picture that surfaced online of him basically at like a Sbarro eating lunch with the school president. And it's like, what is going on?
Just a weird place. Gainesville's just a weird place.
Had weird comments in the media lately. I know he's been acting strange, so
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there.
He's done. If they don't fire him, he's going to leave anyway. So
Where's he going to go? Who would have him?
He's going to try like hell to get the Penn State job. He's going to try with everything he has. Because James Franklin, he's going to SC. I think that's pretty far down the road at this point. It might not happen, but I think it should happen. That seems like a good place for James Franklin.
Yeah.
But in that case, Dan Mullen is going to absolutely full court press to try and get the job in State College, PA. And I don't think he's going to get it, and he's just going to end up in the Saban retirement factory over there. Him and Ed Orgeron talking football, and
I'd love to hear that conversation.
Yeah,
if you could understand it.
Yeah. Ed Orgeron just rips his shirt off, chugs a Red Bull, and beats his chest and grunts a little bit. And Dan Mullen's going through his Darth Vader mask. That's what that was supposed to be, by the way. So,
by the way, Coach O is in total scorched earth mode right now.
Yes.
And he's going to pull the red shirt off of backup quarterback for the rest of this little interim season. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Nussmeier is going to get his red shirt pulled, and it was something that the family agreed to. But I guarantee you they were sold on that. But it's going to cost him a year of eligibility just for him to play, 10 10 snaps against Arkansas. Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous. And they're going to get blown out. And it's going to be an Arkansas win by multiple touchdowns, and then upset alert in Tiger Stadium for Louisiana Monroe. That's a game they're not going to get up for, and the Warhawks, I think, might take care of business against them.
They're not too bad, the Warhawks ain't.
No, they're pretty good. They're pretty sporty. I mean, they got the hell beat out of them by Coastal, but who hasn't? So, yeah, I mean, when you look at Florida, taking this thing back all around.
Circular,
yeah. When you look at Florida, Todd Grantham leaves. John Hevesy is another casualty, which makes me scratch my head because his position was the only one that was actually playing well.
Yeah.
The offensive line. They actually, they were tops in the country in rushing and yards per carry and things like that. And so you fired John Hevesy? That doesn't make any sense. But I guess you had to fire somebody. I don't know. It's weird down there. But one guy leaves, Todd Grantham, and Christian Robinson, who's a grinder. He's been grinding through GA opportunities, and he went up to Michigan. So he's been in the weirdo coaching factory between Harbaugh and Mullen. But he's going to be calling defensive plays. I know, right? He's going to be calling defensive plays for the Gators for the rest of the season. So he's going to get a chance to audition for some DC jobs, which he's a former Georgia linebacker. So I'm excited for that. Hopefully he gets a DC job somewhere besides Florida. Maybe he'll land at Alabama. If he's a talented guy. He's a linebacker. I think he'd fit in well at Alabama under Nick Saban. Get into some normalcy, I guess. So that would be awesome. So, but Jeb, you seem to be excited. Tennessee beat the 11. What was it? 11 minutes time of possession and 45 points.
It was
Talk
14.
about efficiency.
It was 14.
There you go. It was about 35 seconds in the first quarter. And
This is one of those fish stories. Like, pretty soon it's going to be, they only had a minute and a half of time of possession. They scored 45
exactly.
points. It was crazy. But, I mean, you have to be excited with that efficiency, right, Jeb?
Definitely with the offense. That was exciting to watch. And, they're just big play after big play. It was pretty amazing. They had a couple of sustained drives to show you they could still do that. But, I mean, Tyne Evans came back and then immediately went out again with injury. But Jabari Small ran well. They just didn't have to run him much.
By sustained drives, you mean like 2.5 minutes?
Yes. I mean, like, man,
6 plays.
8 plays. Yeah, exactly.
6 plays, a minute 45. Yeah.
And that's actually the one thing that worries me about Coach Heupel. I don't think he knows how to run the clock, but that's all right now.
Well, right
if he
now
can
you
score,
figure out-
I'm
you
fine with it.
You figured out defensively how to make enough plays, and that's what they did. What I saw was that they, the plays that they did make were in crucial situations that stalled Kentucky at key times. That gave them back the momentum. So, if your defense can be opportunistic at least, you can win with that blitzkrieg style of offense.
The thing I really liked about our defense was, unlike most games in the past, including the Alabama game this year, we didn't just fall apart late because of lack of depth. They actually played better late. That's when they started making their big plays. Alontae Taylor's interception at pick 6 was in the third, and they had a couple of huge sacks in the fourth to really stall some drives there. I was very impressed with them actually coming back and playing hard at the end.
Well,
Something I always had trouble with.
Do you from Madden and NCAA and all those, the engage 8 defense where 8 players blitz and there's 3 players in zone defense? They started doing that to Kenny Trill or Will Levis or whatever his name is, and that's the reason Tennessee won the game. If Tennessee would have just tried to play defense, they might have been in trouble. But the fact that they just said, screw it, let's just send everybody. Let's see if he can pick out an open receiver. Somebody's going to be open every play, and we don't think he can find him. And that's exactly what they did. And confidence started building with that defensive group to where that last drive, I didn't expect Kentucky to score, even though they had 600 yards of offense and 46 minutes of time of possession. I didn't expect them to put him in the end zone.
Right.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah.
And then you saw that as soon as you saw that bottom lip come out on Will Levis's face, you knew it was over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch any of that game because Alabama was in a freaking dog. That should have never happened. But anyway, So I didn't get to
That was
enjoy.
LSU's Super Bowl. I mean,
Right.
the players
Yeah.
got up for that one,
Yeah.
and coaching really, that was one of those games. Coaching really didn't matter. The players were going to play their ass off to beat Alabama because that's their
Yes.
Super Bowl.
So I had
tank.
I had to watch every single second of the Alabama game. So I didn't get to see that. So I was keeping up on Steven's Twitter. He kept on saying Tennessee has so and so many points for like 5 minutes of possession. I'm like, what? Hang on a second. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I started doing that third quarter. And it was like Tennessee's going to win this game with like 10 minutes of time of possession. It'd be a complete anomaly thing. Oh, by the way, Hendon Hooker right now is the SEC Offensive Player of the Year.
He's.
I don't think anybody can argue with that. He's just playing very, very well at this point.
If N'Kobe Dean scores any more touchdowns, he might be SEC Offensive Player of the Year.
Dude, talking about N'Kobe Dean, I mean, I think it was a Florida game. I got to watch pretty much all that game, and if I remember correctly, they ran a running back out wide. I mean, past the wide receiver, he lined up on him and intercepted for pick six. I mean,
he threw
for a linebacker, that dude's got speed.
For a Mike linebacker.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a Mike linebacker.
Who's the guy at Chicago that played linebacker for you guys and
Roquan.
the last time?
Roquan. Yeah,
He's another Roquan. That's what he is. I thought Roquan was as good as he was good. Yeah, and then you get N'Kobe that can do the same thing, and he might be a little bit of a Mike linebacker with Will linebacker's speed.
That was his biggest comparison coming out of high school. Actually, that was his comp. So it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, he showed the world that even against a Mike linebacker, you cannot throw a hitch late to the numbers, or that thing's going to get picked and housed, and it did. So
this weekend's scary though.
It is
Georgia. Yeah, if I'm Georgia, I'd be scared.
Well, let's before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about that Mississippi State Arkansas game. If Mississippi State has a kicker, maybe we're talking about something different. But that was an entertaining game. It was very back and forth.
It was the Ole Miss Arkansas game essentially, except they got the touchdown on the 2-point conversion at the end as opposed to missing it because the fourth quarter was just as wild as the Ole Miss game. It was up and down the field for both guys, and Mississippi State couldn't slow it down enough. That's the amazing part of this. Everybody thinks the air raid and they see Mississippi State and they assume they're a no-huddle tempo team. No, they are a play-it-slow team, and they will take the checkdowns, and they're very methodical with what they do. But they weren't able to slow it down enough, and Arkansas was able to take care of business. Yeah, I got you, Jeff.
There you go.
Thank you.
He's got Tennessee on the brain. Just watching the game, I was like, man, this is like a freaking air raid clinic, man. This is the Bryles version versus the OG, man. This is like Pupil versus Yoda. And
Will Rogers is good, man. He's going to be Gardner Minshew by the time he's a senior.
He's legit, and I keep telling people that. We did our SEC preview on Illegal Motion, which is another podcast that I do. It's more of a national podcast. We talked about SEC, and I was talking to two Big Ten guys, and they were like, yeah, Mississippi State's garbage. They're going to finish dead last. It's not even going to be close. And I said, watch Will Rogers. Watch out for him. He can sling it. And they didn't believe me. And here we go. Here we are.
I think last week or something like that, it was 35 or 39 or some ridiculousness. Yeah.
Dude, just a baller, man. I mean, he picked up on that offense very, very quickly, and the nuances of the air raid system are all based on grass reads and wide receiver sight adjustments. And if you can master that as a quarterback in the air raid offense, you're going to be more like Gardner Minshew and Luke Falk and like Graham Harrell and those guys that really excelled at this offense. You know, those guys are smart, accurate passers that can make side adjustments in a half a second, you know. So it's that's kind of what it's predicated on, and they did a really good job of that. And I'm impressed with Will Rogers. I seem to be amazed with what he does each and every week. I shouldn't be, because this is kind of the norm now, but it still just amazes me what he can do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if he
Go
had
ahead.
some dudes on the outside, Mississippi State could be dangerous. But it's basically Mackay Polk and a bunch of dudes on the outside.
Yeah,
It
they're
doesn't
young.
really matter. Yeah, they're
This was
young.
inexperience. This is
That's something
inexperience.
that recruiting is going to have to
Mhm.
fix. But Will Rogers is absolutely the guy moving forward in that offense. And I say that, look behind me. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'll say this. We're looking ahead a little bit, and we'll talk more about it in our pick section. But if this game was being played this week at Mississippi State, I think Mississippi State could pull the upset against Auburn. But with it being at Jordan Hare, I just think that voodoo is going to be too much for him.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Jake, and we'll get into that. But let's
Mhm.
let's jump into this week because there's several big games on the docket. A&M, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Auburn, just to
Kentucky
name a few.
Vanderbilt. Oh.
Kentucky, Vanderbilt. That's going to be a barn burner here in Nashville. But let's start with Tennessee. One of the things that stood out to me in the preparation, you listen to the coaches in their press conferences, and usually it's coach speak, yada yada yada, this that and the other. But Kirby was very upfront in how he talked about how he prepared for Tennessee. He prepared like he prepares for the triple option because what Tennessee does is vastly different than what the rest of the world does. That it takes dedicated periods throughout the bye week and throughout the season to do this. And he said that they would have tempo periods just to prepare for what Tennessee does. And they kind of treat it like they treated the triple option, where 15 minutes a day in the spring and training camp and bye week, they had 2-3 periods dedicated to stopping that particular thing. Now they're doing the same thing with the tempo. So, obviously they're going to be ready, but can you truly be ready for that? I don't know. Um, but this is going to be a game where it's going to be tight for a long time because Georgia's off. This is going to put a little pressure on Todd Monken really to kind of have to match score for score until that depth takes over, right? Until those guys get tired of blocking Jordan Davis and Kobe Dean and Nolan Smith and what would have been Adam Anderson, but whoever's in there for Adam Anderson, Devontae Wyatt, those guys are going. Those guys are going to eventually get tired of blocking those guys, and depth's going to take over. And to me, Georgia's got to be in the game when that happens so that they can take over and win it. If they're not, if they let Tennessee kind of get a lot of momentum, that's going to be tough to stop.
Yeah, when it comes to Tennessee, I think that they need to run a series, same as Ole Miss. They need to run a bunch of jet sweeps. They need to run outside zones. They need to run some bubbles. They need to do whatever they can to make Georgia's defensive line pursue. Basically, it just becomes a game of pursuit drill. And Tennessee probably doesn't need to try and score every play because they need to wear that defensive line out a little bit, or to look more like Alabama did, to where the worst thing Tennessee could be in was 2nd and 2 because they just couldn't handle the defensive line of Alabama.
Well, Georgia's got to do better tackling in space too. I mean, this was probably the Missouri game was probably their worst tackling game, and a lot of it's probably because it's Missouri and they're not really focused. It was a noon game. They kind of got off to a slow start, but what Tennessee forces you to do also is tackle in space and create mismatches in space with what they do in the screen game. And if Georgia's DBs and edge guys can stop those jet sweeps and force those jet sweeps to kind of slow down a little bit, then they'll be okay. And if they can tackle in space, they preserve the defensive line. So one of the things that Alabama didn't do well early was they didn't tackle in space, so they had to commit more guys downhill, which left guys open over the top. And once Alabama figured that out, then they were able to take over that game and win it. But, I think Georgia's going to have to, they're going to have to be on their A game as far as tackling. So if they're not, it could potentially be a long day or long afternoon, I should say.
Yeah, I will say one of the things I really like about this new coach in Tennessee's offense this year is as up tempo, and you kind of guess exactly, how they're going to work. The truth is, Coach Apple's been really good about tailoring his offense to whoever he's playing that week. He's really good about figuring out what the weakness is on the defense and trying to attack that, which is not something Tennessee's been great about in the past. And I don't know why. It seems kind of like an obvious thing, but
Because they've hired the wrong freaking guys.
I'm sure that's actually what it is.
Jeremy Pruitt ain't doing that.
It has happened in a while. Lane Kiffin probably would have been good at that. He didn't stick around long enough to find out, but no, I really like that. The problem is when you look at Georgia this week, there's just not a lot of weaknesses there to attack. I know there are some areas that aren't as strong as others, but they're all really good. So I don't know. I think Tennessee will play a great game. I really am excited for this one, which is something at the beginning of the season I would not have think I would be saying at this point in the season. But at the same time, I don't see them scoring that much against Georgia. I mean, how much have you given up this year in any game? 13? Is that the max? I think.
Yeah, that's the biggest output. 13.
I think we can break 13. I don't think we're going to break 24 at all.
Yeah, that'd be quadruple the season average of 6.6. So, I am interested to see kind of how Georgia comes out in the first series defensively against Tennessee. How do they kind of play it? Do they kind of play everything in front of them and make Tennessee drive it, which Tennessee doesn't want to do. Tennessee wants to live on big plays. Can Tennessee be patient enough to take quick game and march down the field? I don't know. I don't know if they can be. I don't know if they have the depth to be. One thing is, Tennessee doesn't want to wear themselves out trying to get these 10, 12, 13 play drives. They're not built for that. They're built to strike you quick, get momentum, and get some confidence, which they have a lot of. They have plenty of. So I'm interested to kind of see that. I'm interested to see Georgia's offense. Can they continue to roll and control the ball? I mean, if there's ever a ground and pound, if this is ever a Kirby game, this is the Kirby game. Control the clock, control the rock, and drive the ball down the field and not stall out. So this is going to be a game where I think JT Daniels is going to be vital to the game plan. He's got to factor in because, I just don't think you can run Stetson around all the time, and I just don't think he's still enough of a threat vertically. And he hit one last week, but I still just don't think, especially on the road, that he's enough of a vertical threat to push the ball down the field that Tennessee's really going to be worried about. If JT's in there, they're going to be worried about him hitting some deep balls. So I'm interested to see what they do with that and how they factor in JT Daniels, if they factor in JT Daniels.
Corey, I don't think you're going to have to worry about, I think I got it figured out. Kirby's not going to play JT Daniels until the second half of the SEC championship game. Because Alabama's used to putting in a second-string quarterback in the second half and beating him. So I think that's what he's doing.
He's just waiting to beat Saban in his own game, right?
Yeah. Right.
I love it.
But Alabama's got to get there first.
We're going out on 7 YouTube channels tonight.
Awesome.
I just noticed that. Yeah, 7 YouTube channels,
including mine. Believe in Dogs, so that's good.
Awesome.
That's pretty good, man. If you want us to go out on your YouTube channel, if you are not one of the 7 and you want to be, let us know, man. We'll definitely send you that pair link. And if you want to be part of the show, if you want your logo floating around in here somewhere, or if you want me to talk about how your product is great or your service is great, or if you want me to drink your beverage, I will do so. Just let us know. Join in. Sponsor us. We'd love to have you. But I think, Georgia, Tennessee, it's going to be interesting, and we'll talk more about it. I'll give you my final verdict in the picks. But let's take a look at, Ole Miss A&M. This is a game. College Game Day is going to be there. It's in Oxford, which is interesting. Matt Corral is a little bit more healthy. I don't know if he's a fully 100%, but to me, Steve, you've got to figure out a way to not have to run him so much. And they do have that in their offense. I know it. I've seen it. We've broke it down. If you really want to see the origins of Willis Digital Media, go check out Offense to Boot Camp on the very, very beginnings of our channel. You'll see the depths of Lane Kiffin's offense and what he brings to the table. He's got to figure out a way to not have to run Matt Corral into the ground. How are they going to do that, Steve?
Well, this week is real similar to what Tennessee's game plan needs to be against Georgia. They need to run a bunch of jet sweeps. They need to run a bunch of outside zones. They need to do things to make Texas A&M's defensive line pursue. You need to get them tired and heavy duty tempo. Do this over and over again, make them tired, and you can open up what needs to be done in your offense. Matt Corral, I think, will be a little bit better than last week. He looked pretty good last week, honestly. And if he looks good, I think Dontario Drummond could be back. So that's 2 out of our 3 starting wide receivers. If that starts to come back and the offense starts to look the way it looked in the beginning of the year, then all of a sudden Ole Miss is kind of a different animal. And A&M's defense is really good. But this is Zach Calzada's first real road game. That's hard to believe, but they went to Missouri and played in front of a high school crowd, and they played a neutral site game against Arkansas and Arlington. And
so this will be his first hostile environment.
Yeah, I think he went to Colorado as well, and that was in Miles Stadium.
Colorado. So, but the comments now, people are starting to jump in a little bit. Cassidy's talking about basketball. We can talk about basketball later. But Alabama did have a packed house. They got some rings, got some jewelry last night. Cassidy also says, maybe y'all got some mustard to throw. We're going back to the Georgia game for a second. Justin Riley says, do you risk disrupting the flow of the offense by taking out Stetson? Seems like UG offense has rhythm with him, even though it's not flashy. Obviously, no. Yeah, they do have rhythm. But, I mean, you could kind of tell where the points are as far as taking him out. If he's red hot, obviously, no. But I think they're seasoned enough to know at what points that it's good and it's okay to insert JT, or maybe they flip the script and start JT. I don't know.
The goal is to win the national championship. Stetson Bennett can win the next few games and get to the SEC championship, and they may be able to pull out a win against Alabama. But to get to that Final Four, it's about those final 2 games. And who gives you the best chance to win? JT Daniels gives you the best chance to win.
So it's all about getting him ready. But Adrian, now going back on topic, Adrian, which Ole Miss receiver will get over 100 yards this week, if any, Steve?
John Rice Plumlee in the slot, because as the aforementioned jet sweep game that is completed as a forward pass. John Rice Plumlee went over 100 yards last week, and I think he's going to do that this week again.
Yeah, and then also put the offensive load on Snoop Connor. Let it ride, man. So that's also good. But yeah, I think when you look at A&M, I mean, yeah, their defensive line's formidable, but again, just getting those guys on the move and getting the ball out on the perimeter, forcing those guys to tackle. Those corners don't want to tackle. No corner wants to tackle, really, except Keely Ringo. That guy will tackle, sometimes a little too much. But I think when you can get the ball out there and force those guys to really be the big time playmakers of the defense, some things can happen for you. And I think just getting that thing going out on the perimeter is going to be the key to this game. Attack the perimeter so that you can later attack the interior. So, and you know, if you run the ball anywhere in the tackles, run it straight down Broadway. You know, just run it right at them. That seems to work too sometimes. You know, either run it right at them or attack the perimeter now. And I think you'll be good, especially if you got guys that are good on the edges.
I think you're going to see a little bit of the counter game in the Ole Miss A&M game. You'll see a little bit of the counter to try and get Leal and the guys pursuing a certain way, and maybe you can pop a play or two.
Yeah, there's a lot of counter reads, counter options, counter RPOs that I love what they do. The counter jets, the counter stuff, man, it's awesome. But yes, definitely lots of counter. And if it was against Florida, they'd put up 60 easy. I'd take the over if they were playing Florida. They were running counter.
Yeah, because they just can't stop that at all.
No, they can't. Maybe they will under Christian Robinson. I don't know. Maybe they believe in Christian Robinson a little bit more, I guess.
Gotta be better than Todd Grantham.
Is this Ted Lasso? What's going on?
Yeah, Ted Lasso. Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, Ted Lasso would be better than Todd Grantham.
He did coach football at Wichita State.
He did. He did. He did teach. He did coach it at Wichita State. Now he's
he won a national title at Wichita State. That storyline for the show proves that it's a British show.
Wichita State. I
Gosh.
love that. So Ted Lasso after dark, right? Apple TV After Dark. So as we continue on that, the morning show is no. Okay, all right. I'm not gonna break down the morning show.
Okay.
I kind of enjoy the morning show. By the way,
it is good, and Jennifer Aniston still got it.
She still has her fastball. She really does.
She does. Jake, you don't have to answer that. All right, Auburn, Mississippi State. This is interesting because Auburn is Auburn. They're such a weird team, and I guess it's just because the erratic play of Bo Nix. I mean, you got road Bo, you got road Bo, which equals bad Bo. You got home Bo, which sometimes turns into bad Bo.
Just do good Bo, bad Bo. We did that in 2014. Beat Alabama with it. It's good Bo, bad Bo.
It's a little more complicated. Like good Bo can turn into bad Bo real quick, and bad Bo can turn back into good Bo. It's almost like
maybe erratic Bo, maybe.
Yeah.
Something I don't know.
Schizophrenic Bo.
Jekyll and Hyde. It's watching Bo Nix play quarterback is like watching that final scene in Miss Doubtfire where like he's running back and forth and changing and all of a sudden he like blows his cover because he just got too drunk. And it's kind of like that. And how much do I get for a Miss Doubtfire reference?
Mrs. Doubtfire reference. Mrs. Doubtfire After Dark, Paramount After Dark, or whatever it is.
I dug deep for that one. All right.
You did.
See, now I'm almost to the bottom of this glass, so that could.
There you go.
Yeah.
But talking about this game, or actually, I was going to talk about the Auburn game last week, but I was screaming there, especially in the third and fourth quarter. I was like, put in JT Finley. I mean, Bo's not doing nothing. They're having no success on offense. What do you got to lose? Just see what Finley can do. And they just didn't ride with him. They just stayed with Bo and lost big. It was ugly. The entire game was.
How do you have 19 carries between your two best players, Tavius Hunter and Bigsby? 19 carries between them.
Yeah,
and asinine.
I think Auburn fell a little bit into the trap, or Brian Harsin did, of we do what we do. That was kind of what got them beat, and they didn't do anything differently. They didn't attack the perimeter. They kind of just did what they did, and A&M that just played directly into their hands.
I mean, that was like, watching that game reminded me of kind of what Mike Bobo was early on in his career as an offensive coordinator, where he was very systematic, very much by the play sheet. He stuck to the situations. When you really you lost the feel of the game because, you're looking down at your play card or your play poster, which some of these guys have, which I don't understand. I love Mike Leach. That his play sheet is this. This is
small.
His play sheet.
Right.
And we don't even know that there are any plays written on it. He might just be holding it for show.
It could be notes for screw ups. It's like, okay.
He's got a picture of Bigfoot on it, probably.
It could be his ranking of something random for the post game comments. I don't know. It could be anything on that little play.
Probably a ranking of pirate ships. And where would the Black Pearl go on his ranking of pirate ships?
If we ever have him, we have to ask him that. So write that down.
Yeah.
But watching treasure chest.
Exactly. But what made Mike Bobo, going back to our original point, but what made Mike Bobo such a great play caller in the early 2010s when he had Aaron Murray was it just seemed like he was into the flow of the game. It just kind of seemed like he was going with what was working. He seemed to go with the strength of his team, not based on, okay, this is what our identity is, this is what we do in this situation, so we're going to do it because this is what the situation calls for. It's almost like overplaying analytics. And when he didn't overplay analytics and he went with his gut, which his gut is pretty good because he's played quarterback in this conference, and in his past years as offensive coordinator, he's had success with a talented quarterback. So, where's your instincts? I didn't see any instincts. I just saw him looking down at a sheet and going, "Okay, it's 3rd and 8. I will pick this play on 3rd and 8. Call that play." And it had no rhythm.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Robotic offensive coordinator. I am a robot. I will go 3rd and 7 right now.
3rd and 7. I will call a slant into cover.
My
0.
receivers can't catch the ball, so I'm going to call that anyway. I think that's the biggest problem with Auburn is their receivers are just a liability at this point.
They have no receivers. Their receivers are awful.
Yeah, I mean, they had Demetrius Robinson as their best one, and he was like 8th on Georgia's roster last year.
Yeah.
And this is his 27th school in 3 years.
Oh, by the way, go back in time a little bit.
Love Demetrius.
Jalen Jones for Ole Miss got an interception against Liberty last weekend. The fun fact about Jalen Jones is he was recruited in Hugh Freeze's last class at Ole Miss.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's on the Matt Jones program apparently to just spend a decade in the conference.
Van Wilder. Even more mover. So maybe his hands are tied with Bo Nix. Bobo is limited. Yeah, but his hands aren't tied with Tank Bixby.
No.
And Jarquez Hunter. His hands aren't tied with those two.
Auburn limited the touches because they were scared of A&M's D-line.
And they shouldn't have been. They had some success running the ball. I mean, but you got to almost be stubborn with it, though, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter if it works. Do it over and over again. 1 play out of 3 needs to be a running play designed to make that defensive line run. If not, you're just playing into their hands.
If you let those guys pin their ears back and come after you, it's over. They're better at pass rushing than they are at run stopping. Yeah. And Auburn did not exploit that whatsoever.
It gets the defense like that. Quarterback run game comes into the equation, and Bo Nix just couldn't do that. I don't know why.
He stripped himself on a play, caused his own fumble. It was remarkable.
Yeah.
His hands aren't tied because of Bo Nix. He's got other options. Like, you shouldn't have to put the game in the hands of Bo Nix ever. Bo Nix should just be somebody that makes a play here and there, which is what he's good at. Like when those two guys get going in the run game, Bo Nix doesn't have to have that pressure, and Bo Nix can just sit back and play. And that's what he does best.
And this might be something that's a little bit too old for maybe all of y'all except for me. Who knows? But which would you rather have playing quarterback?
I'm loading up on old jokes.
Which would you rather have at quarterback for Auburn, Bo Nix or Patrick Nix?
Yes.
Yes.
Because Patrick Nix was a serviceable quarterback. He wasn't special. Bo Nix can make the special plays, but he was consistent. He was a guy that I think he replaced maybe Ben Leard, who was or he might have been before that. But he was a decent little player.
I'd rather have Patrick Nix. Bo just his brain is freaking scrambled.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Whatever it is with Bo Nix, as soon as there is pressure, he drops his eyes. He's no longer looking at the wide receiver. And Eric Curry's still in the mind of Patrick Nix. That's a good one. But yeah, he drops his eyes and he can't find the receivers again. Like, every now and then, he'll pick it up and see a tight end running across like against LSU, which that Auburn LSU game doesn't look like a big win anymore.
No.
It's really hard for Bo Nix, and who knows? Just who knows? I would rather have Patrick Nix.
Yeah. And Justin Riley, the Justin Riley Network. It sounds so official. I love it. Bobo did the same thing with Hunter and Bixby as Bill O'Brien did with B. Rob and Roy Dell.
Yeah.
No, Bill O'Brien just Bill O'Brien. He has his own verb, so no. I see the connection, but Bill O'Brien is just he's just Bill O'Brien.
Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, sorry, Jake.
No,
you have two bad coordinators there in Alabama.
It had to happen eventually. And listen, they still have a shot at the playoff. That's the amazing thing of how good of players that they actually have.
Did you just go Jim Moore on us?
Playoffs?
Playoffs.
Playoffs? But they still have a shot to get there, even though they are just the offensively with Bill O'Brien. I mean, it's just Bill O'Brien. It's just his own land that they're living in. They just, like I said, I'm sorry, Jack.
No,
Bama's
I want to say one thing real quick.
Real quick. Without Jamison Williams, this is a 3-loss team right now for Alabama.
I was fixing to say, I say it every time that we do our podcast, but I thank Ohio State every day for giving us Jamison Williams. I mean, that I don't know. He's just a playmaker.
That dude is special, man. I love watching him play.
Mm-hmm.
He is a special dude. But yeah, I mean, Alabama right now is just flying high on superior talent than Nick Saban. Like it's only being held together because of Nick Saban.
And Ohio State is Purdue's next victim.
Yep, Purdue's got him in their crosshairs, and I'm all for it. Purdue's up in the rankings now.
Yeah,
but maybe they should unrank Purdue because Ohio State needs to.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
No. I wasn't saying anything about that. I do agree that, I mean, for Alabama, you change your coordinators every year. I mean, it's just what it is. They all go on to different jobs, getting head coaching jobs in different places. It can't be a winner every year. So,
no.
But as long as you've got Nick Saban and as long as you've got every 5-star you want, I don't think they've got too many problems.
We might get Sarkisian back after his fiasco the first year.
Did you see where this is kind of big SEC After Dark? Did you see where their D-line coach just dog cussed the entire team on the bus?
Bo Davis.
Bo Davis is the man, and he's probably a hero to Texas Longhorn fans right now. What's going on? Yeah, I mean, and also, how much of a snitch is the guy that recorded that audio and put it out?
Yes.
Oh my God. What a penny waste. They need to find that guy and get him off the team because he is actually holding Texas back.
Wait. Did you just say penny waste?
Yeah, it was.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, it was wrong. Such weak sauce to do that.
Penny
oh
waste.
My God.
I love that. Part of me thinks Bo Davis wanted that to be recorded. I don't think he's upset about that. I think he wanted that to get out.
I agree, Justin.
Hey.
Yeah. Please bring Bo Davis back. Yes, they need something.
Yeah, Alabama hiring Ole Miss's defensive line coach off of Wesley McGriff's staff. Yeah, that was going to be a good play, man.
Yep. Yeah, I was as I was scrolling through the Bo Davis situation, Quan Cosby on Believing Horns Up or the Horns Up podcast or whatever that is. He said that the only thing he was disappointed at is that it was Bo Davis and not a player that was doing that.
Yeah. Because if it's not a player, it's a problem. If it's a player, you have a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
Now your player was recording it and putting it out on the web, so.
Yeah. Player was probably a kicker or a long snapper.
Big 12 After Dark, real quick. If I'm an opponent that is coming up playing Texas, I'm going to tell my guys to let Texas get up 35 and just come back in the second half. Yeah. Because they cannot close the game out and save their lives.
Definitely tell them not to worry about it if you get behind. So it's okay.
And since we're doing Big 12 After Dark, Iowa State playing Oklahoma this weekend. Oklahoma could remember the good old days where they were ranked 9th in the playoff rankings because they might be about to free fall.
Yes.
Free
falling.
Now we're singing After
Tom
Dark.
Petty After Dark.
Yeah.
Where
I love this show.
Yes. So speaking of picks, let's get into it.
Picks. All right. Picks.
We got some good ones on the docket this week. So I'm excited. Alabama has another conference game this week. New Mexico State comes in. This is the most ridiculous ridiculous spread I have ever seen in my life. And I'm just so used to typing Bama in there. I'm gonna go first. New Mexico State, because just with Bill O'Brien, I think Alabama's just going to struggle to score 52 points in general. So I'm going to take New Mexico State to cover that because all they got to do is kick a field goal and they probably cover it. So I'm going to take whatever New Mexico State is. Steve.
Yeah, same thing. Too many points, essentially. 51.5 points. That's ridiculous. Yeah, New Mexico State, I think, is going to kick a field goal, like you said. Alabama's going to win 40-3. Nick Saban's going to get to yell at his team and get them ready for Auburn. But it's going to be one of those type games. But this is a weird Alabama team. This is a weird team.
Jib?
Yeah, well, I've learned in these picks not to pick against Alabama. I'm wrong every time. But, I don't know, this is a ridiculous spread. New Mexico State's not very good, though. Alabama certainly could score 60 on them. I don't think they would be that difficult for them to do. I know they've got much more difficult games coming up. Maybe they're looking ahead, or maybe they use this week to really just pound on somebody before they go into these tough games. Work some things out, give everybody some playing time, score as many points as they can. I'm going to say Alabama goes ahead and scores 60 this week.
Jake?
I wish I could be as confident as you, Jeb, and I'm wearing the Alabama hat. But, I mean, that 20 points against that LSU team, I'm sorry. I think we're struggling a little bit offensively. Now, defensively, we've gotten better each week. So, beginning of the year, I had said that we may have to ride the defense a little bit. And we may have to now. But to try to get 52 points and keep New Mexico State off the board, it's going to be tough. So I think New Mexico State will cover. But it may be like a 42, 45-3 type game. But that offensive line's struggling big time. And, of course, Bill O'Brien's still there.
See the Fox on the field during the Arizona State game?
Did y'all see that?
Cassidy, what did the Fox say?
Yeah.
What did the Fox say?
No.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man. I love it.
After dark.
Corey Burton.
Yeah. I just bring out all the obscure references. That's what I do.
You already dropped a Mrs. Doubtfire. Next, coming up soon, the Sandlot.
Well, yeah. I mean, you remember on one of our I dropped a not a surf reference from the song Popular. So that was
nice.
Like I said, random references. That's what I do. That's how I roll. Mississippi State has become somewhat of an enjoyable team to watch. I know, Steve, that probably makes your skin crawl by saying that, but
they are.
I think Auburn's going to figure it out. I think they do have a little bit of mojo at home. I just think they're going to do enough defensively to disrupt Mississippi State. I think it's going to be a relatively high-scoring game, but Auburn's going to pull out that one touchdown margin of victory.
Derek Mason made his bit of overlap between him and Mike Leach. Mm-hmm. So he's seen the air raid before. I'm going to go with Auburn based on that. Derek Mason with time to prepare is deadly.
All right. Jib?
Oh, can't hear Jib.
Did you hit mute?
The Auburn Mafia.
No,
there you go.
I don't know what happened. That was completely technical difficulties. It had nothing to do with me. Anyway.
Finally, it's not me that has the technical difficulties.
Windows 95 Jeb. All right.
Yeah, there we go. Hashtag.
Got a problem with clicking things. Sorry. Anyway, no, I was going to say I didn't have much to add there anyway. I said I'm glad Mike Leach's system is starting to work because it is fun to watch. But I agree with you. I think Auburn's going to find a way to pull this out at home.
Jake.
Yeah, I think the issues last week, I think Harsin realizes he's got to feed, Hunter and Tank Bigsby. And, don't leave it up to, Bo Nix to try to make a play to win the game. But being at home, I think does give them a little bit of advantage. They may win by a touchdown, maybe by 10, but I'm taking Auburn.
All right. The game we were talking about earlier, Georgia at Tennessee. I told you I'd give you my final verdict. Georgia favored by 20 on the road in Knoxville. This is going to be a raucous environment. The general rule so far is pick UGA and till they don't cover. So I'm gonna take UGA. This is probably the scariest pick that I've made for the dogs, but I do think they eventually. I do think they eventually break this thing open in the second half to cover the spread.
Yeah. Tennessee has everything that gives a Kirby Smart defense trouble. They can do all of those things, including the quarterback run game. That being said, I'm taking Georgia in the points.
I don't think Tennessee is going to score enough to win this for sure. But I don't know, with the spread being 20 and Tennessee actually playing as well as they are right now, I think they're kind of feeling it. They're going to come in and play well. The worry is that Georgia will just pull away in the end like Alabama did once Tennessee gets tired. But like I said, they proved last week that they could at least keep playing like they want to. They play hard, and I love that. So I'm going to say that they cover that spread and take Tennessee on the points with this one.
Yeah, I agree, Jeb. Like you said, the fourth quarter of the Alabama game, they kind of got away from them. But last week, they bunked, they hunkered down and played really well in the fourth quarter. I think they're going to be up and ready for this game, especially being at Neyland. And, Georgia's got two things to worry about. I mean, that Tennessee offense is clicking, and the coaching staff and the players got to worry about getting hit with a mustard bottle during the game and a golf ball. So, I mean, there's two things they got to worry about. Yeah. So, I think Georgia may win by 18, 17, 18. I think Tennessee can keep it close to cover the spread.
Alrighty then. South Carolina at Missouri. It is a pick 'em, which is going to lead me to pick the red hot South Carolina Gamecocks. I think they're playing really, really well. They're just they play hard. They're not very talented, but they play hard, and they got a couple of pieces that gives them a chance. And I think Missouri, I'll admit, I completely whiffed on Missouri. Missouri is downright pitiful right now. And honestly, I think South Carolina win, and they have a chance to win big on this one. Their defense is playing really, really well right now, so I'm going to take the Gamecocks.
Yeah, there's about 4 different ways that South Carolina can win this game. There's only one way I think that Missouri can win this game, and that would be a shootout where Bazelak comes back and Beatty goes off and all of that happens.
Yeah, Bazelak is available.
Yeah, if he's available. But everybody's so close to the vest with injuries right now. Who really knows about that? But South Carolina, I think, is going to run the ball. I do think this is a game that South Carolina can win possibly by a couple of touchdowns. That run defense is so bad, and we'll just have to see what happens. Now, understand that Jason Brown is a third-string transfer quarterback from St. Francis. Don't forget that. So,
well, it's better than what they had was an assistant coach. So
yeah, but
Zab's
when it comes to Missouri, I mean, if something goes wrong, that's probably what has gone wrong.
Yeah, I mean that's true. It's a very, very volatile situation there at the quarterback position, but then again, that defense is playing really, really well. So there's that. Jib.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I see why this is a pick 'em because it can honestly go either way. I really like Missouri's run game, and I really, really hate their defense. So South Carolina has been extremely bad. They barely beat Vanderbilt. They barely beat Troy. They did find something last week, which was fun to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed flipping to that game just to calm myself down from the Tennessee-Kentucky game for a little while. I flipped it to Kentucky, to South Carolina, Florida, laugh for a little while, flip back to Tennessee game, have a heart attack, flip back to Florida, laugh. It was a good time. But I don't know. With this one, I don't know which way it's going to go. I think I'm picking South Carolina just because I think their offense has gotten it together a little bit, and Missouri's defense is so bad.
I'm actually going Missouri. They had some success running the ball last week against the stout Georgia defense. And I was trying, like we said, we don't know the status of Bazelak. They're not saying anything about his status. I mean, you can't find anything on the interweb about it. But I know Missouri has struggled running the ball. So if South Carolina wants to win this game, they're going to have to run it and run it well. But Beatty, he's a monster, and I think he's going to go off. And if Bazelak's available, he's just going to play just good enough that to lead him to victory.
All right, we got I already made my mistake of believing in Missouri. Not gonna happen. Not gonna that. Kentucky traveling to the Music City to take on Vanderbilt, 21-point favorites. To me, this is a get well game for Kentucky. I think this is a get back on track game for them. They are on a hellacious skid right now. Will Levis is probably his confidence is an all time low. There's a lot of good things I thought they did against Tennessee. Um, but just those few moments of complete disaster cost them the game. I think that you're not going to see that. I think they blow out Vanderbilt. I'm taking the Wildcats.
Yeah, Kentucky needs to hit their threes. They need to drive it to the hole, be beast in the paint, and rebound the ball very well. Well, football. Oh, this is a get well game. It's going to be 40-3.
Yeah. We're talking football here, Steve.
Yeah,
Even though Cassie tried to throw some basketball in there.
yeah.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt probably disliked that last game because they know Kentucky's going to come in angry. They're still going to finish second in the East, so I mean they're still a really good team, and I think they're going to take out some of their frustration on Vanderbilt. So I'm going with Kentucky as well.
Yeah, I think Kentucky will win and win easily. My biggest threat, I guess, would be is can Kentucky score 21? But it is Vandy, and I think they're going to score that easily, so they should cover easily.
Chris Rodriguez is going to have 4 touchdowns himself. So.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Here's probably one of the most difficult picks that I've made this season. A&M 2.5-point favorites on the road at Ole Miss. I went back and forth on this one. Even on this spreadsheet, I typed Aggies, then I deleted it, typed Ole Miss, then deleted again, typed Aggies. But I finally landed on Ole Miss. I think the home field deal for Zach Calzada going on the road, playing in a hostile environment, the home stadium feel for Ole Miss, I think is going to help them in this one. I think Ole Miss can do enough to disrupt what Texas A&M does well on defense, which is pin their ears back and come after the passer. And a lot of people are falling into the trap that Ole Miss is some tempo, throw the ball 75-time offense, and they're not. They're actually more heavy on the run.
They're 60-40 run this year.
And they just do it a little differently. And I think they're going to find ways to get it done without Matt Corral heavily involved. If they can keep him upright, I think they win this game. If they can keep him upright, if they can get the ball out of his hands quick, feature Snoop, feature John Rice Plumlee, get those guys involved, get Dontario Drummond, get him in the mix a little bit. He's healthy, right?
I think he's going to play, but like I said, getting injuries out of these guys, it's a
yeah.
If
they can get him healthy and in the mix, or if some of these guys that are banged up, if they can contribute, I think.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks past a hamstring versus Auburn. I mean,
yeah. And defensively for Ole Miss, just hit Calzada, just knock him down, pressure him, get in his face, disrupt his timing. That's what he does best. You can let Isaiah Spiller do his thing a little bit, but if you can turn him one-dimensional, that's going to favor Ole Miss. I think they do all of those things, and I do think they win. And I do think they win this game, they're going to have to win to cover. So there you go.
Yeah, the things I keep coming back to, the 2 keys to the game. The first off, they need to run the Jets in the outside zone and make the defensive line for Texas A&M run, because that's going to pay dividends in the second half. And the other thing is get to third down. To where it's like third and long, third and medium, because Ole Miss actually leads the nation in sacks. That's actually just a weird stat, to where if they can get out and actually rush the passer, Calzada's a little bit of a statue back there. So this is definitely one of those games where earn the right to rush the passer. So I'm taking Ole Miss in this one.
I don't know how that feels. Tennessee's been leading the nation in tackles for a loss for a good hunk of the season, so it's very strange. But no, I went back and forth on this just like you did, Corey. I really didn't know who to pick here. I think in the end, Steve's just won me over, because I do believe that Lane Kiffin is good enough as a head coach and with an offense to find a way to attack Texas A&M's defense and actually make it work. Because A&M's defense is really good, but I don't think they're as complete as like Georgia, or even as complete as Alabama's, honestly. I think that that Ole Miss will find a way to score enough on them to win this game. Probably won't be by much, but I'm taking them to cover.
Yeah, I got Ole Miss as well. Defensively, they like you guys said, just stop Spiller. Make them one dimensional. One thing that Alabama didn't do a good job of was attack. Calzada, they couldn't get to him, so you gotta put some pressure on him. If they get some pressure on him, make him have some mistakes. And then offensively, I think Snoop Connor's gonna have a big game. Get him going early, start attacking that middle. And if you find some success rushing the ball, then that's gonna open up everything for Matt Corral to throw it deep. And I think Snoop's gonna have a big game. But ultimately, all they gotta do is just win by 3 and they cover. So, but I think they'll win by 14 or so.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. For time's sake, Arkansas at LSU. We all picked Arkansas, and I think we know why. So that was a clean sweep. The game I really want to talk about, NC State at Wake, as we go outside the conference. This game's going to be fun because Wake Forest is one of my favorite teams to watch outside of the SEC. They're electric. They have a great receiving duo. Sam Hartman's having a tremendous year. Wake Forest is one of the biggest stories, one of the best stories in college football because of what their preseason expectation was versus what they're actually doing with that expectation, meaning blowing it out of the water. NC State is doing Dave Dorn things where they win a big game and then they have a head scratcher game like they did against Miami, who seemed to find a quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke, by the way. But to me, I like Wake Forest. They're going to be too explosive. They're going to be too much for NC State. I know NC State's really good up front. I know NC State can control the ball a little bit, but I think Wake Forest is a team that, like Tennessee, like Ole Miss can potentially do. They put pressure on the other offensive coordinator to feel like that they have to score and score immediately. And a lot of times that gets teams off kilter. I think this is going to happen with NC State. They're a team that can't really handle that. There's teams that can handle that. I think Georgia can handle that. I think A&M can handle that to a certain degree. But NC State is not a team that strikes me as a team that can handle that, which is why I think Wake Forest wins this. And it's a 1.5 point spread, so it's basically a pick 'em. So all Wake Forest has to do is win, which, if you watch that game with NC State, I think a few mistakes down the stretch with Sam Hartman where he just had some off moments, but I thought in large part they outplayed North Carolina for a big chunk of that game. It's just they finished they just fell apart at the end there. But so I like Wake Forest.
I'm right there with you. Not really. No, I'm not at all. NC State is who I'm going with in this game because I think the call offense is going to hit a little bit of a wall this week, and Dave Dorn's going to be able to, I don't know, put his defense to the test. I think their defense is pretty good, is good enough, and it can affect the Wake Forest offense with that little really ride the line down and throw the ball deep offense that they're kind of running at the moment. So any penetration should be able to blow that up.
Okay.
I don't know.
Chip?
Wake Forest had an unfortunate loss last week to North Carolina, but they are still, I think, the best team right now in the ACC. They're really. I don't know. North Carolina State's been playing really well too. This is actually another one of those games that, if you told me about this early in the year, I don't think I'd have believed they were going to be this good.
I don't think this would be the ACC game of the week.
Yeah, no.
Jeb, does it make you sad to see Ty Chandler just absolutely run roughshod over Wake Forest?
Ole Miss legacy, Ty Chandler.
I'm happy for him, actually. I am. For a lot of these kids that left, I don't feel like I'm not angry at a lot of them, outside of Toto, and that's a whole different story. But for the rest of them, I'm glad to see him playing well. I really am. We found our running backs. I think Tennessee's happy with what they got. Injuries have kind of derailed it a little bit, but Ty Evans and Jabari Small are both really good. So I'm happy. I hope he has a good career. But I'm taking Wake Forest to win this game.
Jake?
Yeah, I got Wake Forest as well. Be honest, I have not watched much of either of these teams. I did watch NC State against Mississippi State, and we all know how that turned out. And I think a lot of us had NC State in that game like I did. But
I drank the Kool-Aid.
yeah, but Wake Forest has looked really good, and like Jeff said, they're probably the best team in the ACC. So I think they're going to do enough to win this game this week.
All right. Our next game is a conference game, sort of. Oklahoma, 5.5-point favorites as they travel to Waco to take on the Baylor Bears and Dave Aranda. To me, when I look at this game, I think I'm picking on what I want to happen and what I think could happen. But then again, some of the things that Oklahoma does really well, Baylor struggles with, like pass defense. They're 80th in the country in pass defense. So Baylor's really going to have a marked improvement in that area of their defense if they want to slow down Oklahoma. Caleb Williams is extremely talented. But then again, you look at this inexperience, especially inexperience on the road, it's a problem. They went to Kansas where it was a high school crowd, and then once Kansas was like actually beating Oklahoma, they just sent out a tweet saying, "Just come on to the stadium. You don't have to pay to get in. Just come on." Like, if you struggle in that environment, like Baylor's not an easy place to play. So I think that's kind of what's leading me to pick Baylor, just because a little bit of inexperience at that quarterback position. I'm not sure that he can handle that. I'm not sure Oklahoma, and quite frankly, to me, Oklahoma is just downright soft. They're just soft, just pure soft. And so I'm picking Baylor here. I think Baylor's a more physical team. I think Baylor's really good at home, and I really like what Dave Aranda's done. I just think they need a little more consistency with Baylor. I think they just need – this is going to be the game that's like, okay, here's Baylor. This is the future of the Big 12. Baylor. Steve.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Baylor, I'm taking Baylor in this game. Oklahoma's a 5.5-point favorite. I think Baylor's going to win the game outright, honestly. Gary Bohannon is going to have a fantastic day against that, as you said, soft Oklahoma defense. And then you, on the other side, Dave Aranda with time to prepare for an offense. He's going to surgically put some stuff together to get after a true freshman quarterback.
Absolutely, Jeb.
Now, I'm taking Baylor to get swept by the state of Oklahoma. I don't know. Baylor's really good, and they are. I don't know what happened last week with TCU, but
TCU finally decided to take the shackles off their offense is what happened.
Which probably was
they finally said screw. When Gary Patterson left, they finally said screw it. Let's play offense, and that's what happened.
Hey, real quick. Let's do some SWAC after dark. Real quick. Deion Sanders is apparently high up on the TCU list to replace Gary Patterson, and he's
a
actually
legend in Dallas.
He interviewed for the job already, and he has sat out the last 3 weeks because of surgery at Jackson State. And he might have the surgery, but if he's interviewing for another job while he's out for the head coach, that's a major red flag.
Yeah,
it is. I don't like that. Coach Prime. I don't like it. I like what you've done up to that point, but I don't like that. That doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
If that's true. I don't know if it's true, but if that's true.
I'm going off of Football Scoop, so who knows?
Right.
Yeah, you never know at this point. Who can you trust?
Yeah.
I see all your rants about sports media, so I trust none of it.
Yeah.
We're not journalists, by the way. So if you call us journalists, we're entertainers. That's what we do.
Yeah. The point is, Justin, if he interviewed for the TCU job, that's the problem. I'm not saying he didn't have surgery, but if he's unable to coach his team, if he's interviewing for another job, that's a problem. That's a major red flag.
I hate to bring up some bad memories, but I mean, if Hugh Freeze can coach in a hospital gown in a hospital bed, I think the guy can get on crutches and coach his team. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, anyway.
Hey, Bobby Bowden had a stool, didn't he?
Yeah. Jake would know because he actually took the picture.
yeah.
That's what you didn't see.
Right.
Well done. That's journalism at its finest, Jake. I love it.
But going back to the game we was talking about, I got Baylor as well. I mean, it took a kind of a sort of controversial call, a fourth down play for Oklahoma to beat, Kansas. Like you guys said, a high school team pretty much. And Kansas only won, 2 games in the last 10 years, it seems like. So, and then they struggled, of course, against Texas. They had to come back against Texas. And I think Baylor is much better than Kansas and Texas. So, and it's at home. I think Oklahoma's going to struggle. And I got Baylor for the win.
There's one word for that. Just soft. Just call it what it is.
Soft.
Soft. It's okay. Soft. They're soft.
I think
Charmin,
Oklahoma will
extra
lose a game.
fluffy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if it'll be this game or Oklahoma State, but I think they will lose at least one of them.
They will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of get well game, this game couldn't have come any sooner for Texas. After the bus fiasco, after listening to Bo Davis on the bus, I don't know. I'm ready to run through a wall.
Rock, chalk, Jayhawk, KU.
They're still about a decade away from winning more than 4 games.
But they're only 2 years past beating Texas.
Yeah, I love Lance Leopold, but that dude's got his hands full. Texas is 30.5-point favorites. It's a big spread.
That's a big line, man.
It is, but it's Kansas, so I'm going to take Texas here. I just think they're going to cover. Hopefully they're pissed off. Hopefully this is the game where they say, you know what, we're going to shake off all this weird Tom Herman stuff that they still got going on. I think, honestly, I think if they can purge the team a little bit of Tom Herman's guys, I think they can be a lot better of a program. And I think that's going to happen. And I think this is going to – it has
4
to.
years.
Yeah, it does. It will happen in 4 years. I think they're going to – I think you're going to see a surge at Texas State with former Texas transfers. But I think the Longhorns win, and I do think they cover as well.
Let's see. The important thing to remember about Texas is there's no honeymoon period for that job. So Sark is already, there's rumblings in the background. Do we have the right guy? They're not going to give him time what's going on. So a bad result, even against Kansas, like they lost 4 games in a row for the first time since 2010. Let's say they beat Kansas by 10 points. Let's say it's a fairly close game. It's a 34-24 game to where Texas scores a touchdown in the fourth quarter. That's not going to be acceptable to that alumni base. Kansas is going to cover. Texas is going to win, but it's just going to leave a bad taste in your mouth over and over again if you're a Texas fan. I think Kansas is going to play a game real similar to that. I don't think they have the goods to close it out, but 30 points, I mean, that's 4 touchdowns and a field goal to cover. I mean,
yeah, I'm tired of getting burned by Texas, so I'm taking Kansas to cover. I think Texas wins the game, but it might be one of those situations like we were talking about earlier where Kansas just puts up points kind of inexplicably. You don't understand how they're doing it, but Texas just allows that sometimes. You talk about soft with Oklahoma. Texas just kills me, so I'm going with Kansas to cover.
Yeah.
Or Jason Bean.
I'm going with Kansas as well. I mean, we've been burned by Texas, and I'm just tired of it. So I'm not picking Texas against anybody. They could play Vandy. I'm picking Vandy, but anyway. So yeah, I got Kansas.
Well, they are playing Vandy this week. It's just in the form of Kansas.
Texas would finish 5th or 6th in the SEC West this year, right?
Easily.
Yeah.
The SEC West is loaded.
Yeah, except for LSU. If you take LSU out, it's 7th. So
shit. No. LSU's under in any other conference. LSU's middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Even as bad as they're playing right now, they're middle of the pack.
In this conference,
It's
Texas
true.
is in 4-4 right now. Honestly.
No.
Yeah.
Do they have 3 wins? I don't even know if they would have 3 wins.
It would depend on who they drew from the East, and it would depend on who they played early on. So potentially, if they got Mississippi State in September, they could have gotten them.
Yeah. Because if they play Mississippi State right now, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, we know they wouldn't beat Arkansas. because
Right.
Arkansas just boat raced their ass.
So-
A&M would absolutely take care of them. Ole Miss would take care of them.
Alabama would. I mean,
Well, in that scenario, Alabama and Auburn's in the East.
yeah, that's
So-
true.
But LSU, it depends on if you got them late or if you got them early. If you got them early, you're probably not winning that game either.
Yep.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
That's when they still think they had a chance. But anyway, let's move on. We
Yeah,
digest. Purdue traveling to Ohio State. Ohio State is 20-point favorites at home. If I'm up, this is kind of like that Georgia-Tennessee game, except I think Purdue has the goods to possibly pull an upset here. But if they don't win, I still think they cover here. I like Boiler up. They're ranked 17th in the country now. Ohio State is in the crosshairs. They're just picking them off left and right here in the Big Ten. Love watching Purdue play. Love watching Jeff Brom coach. Or if you're a Florida administrator and you're listening to our show, Purdue sucks. Jeff Brom is terrible. He sucks. He should be out of coaching altogether. If you're not if a Florida administrator is not listening to the show, love Purdue. Jeff Brom is incredible. He's done a great job with limited roster there at Purdue. I think they cover at the very least, but I'm putting Ohio State on an upset alert here.
Yeah, me as well. I really like Purdue in this game, and like you said, the ball coach has picked out Jeff Brom as somebody that likes to sling it around the yard, and he's been identified, and they're starting to sell the idea to the Florida people. So when Dan Mullen flames out, Jeff Brom's right there. You can just go to him and say, "Hey, Jeff, do you want $7.5 million a year and some of the greatest athletes in the country? Come on."
When Dan Mullen flies the coop and thinks he can get an NFL job and doesn't.
I don't think he could get a job with the Detroit Lions in the NFL right now, as bad as they are.
Well, he
Bama
doesn't bite.
offensive analyst.
He doesn't bite kneecaps, so he definitely can't get that job. But I think he's a perfect fit for the Houston Texans. Yeah, because Dave Culley, he's not going past a year, that's for sure. So that's gonna do it for our picks. That's gonna do it for our show. We're gonna wrap this thing up. I just want to remind you, thank you for joining in on the chat, Justin Riley Network. Thanks for your input. Yes, Dion is not gonna. I'd be surprised if he left JSU. At this point, his sons are there. He's got so much invested there right now. I'd be surprised. I think he's kind of locked in on that as his kind of pet project, and I think the only one that can really legitimately pull him away is if Florida State came calling, which is possible. But I don't think they can afford to fire Mike Norvell. But again, follow us on Twitch, YouTube. Hit that like button, that bell notification. If you want your show to stream. If you want our show to stream on your network, I should say, let us know. Hit up the Palmcast, and we'll get that link out to you. Follow us on social media. Again, Jake is still a new addition to our show as a visible human and not as a name in the chat bar. So Jake is with us now. So make sure you give him a follow. Give the Tide Talk podcast. Give that a listen. It's a great show. Him and Stacy do a tremendous job there. Of course, catch Steve each and every day, every morning. And somebody wants to see us next Tuesday. Yeah, exactly. But you can catch Steve on the Palmcast every single day. You can catch me on Beast of the East whenever we get that back up and going. We are recruiting we have some personnel issues there on that. And when I say issues, it just my co-host got too busy. That's the gist of it. Catch me on Believe in Georgia Dogs with Israel. We air every Friday morning, so you can catch that. And that's right, Beast in the mother East. There you go. That's what we do, man. We're Beast. But this is SEC After Dark. We are on Willis Digital Media. We got some new names in the works for our network, so be tuned to that. If you want to advertise, let us know. I'll be glad to wear the T-shirt of your company. I'll be glad to post it on my wall back there. I'll be glad to put it in my glass. if that's what it is, or wear it on my wrist, or wear a hat, or whatever it takes.
Copenhagen, I'm your guy. Please hit me up.
Traeger grills. I talk about things. I talk about things that I create on a Traeger grill all the time. So if you're
There
listening,
you go.
do it. And I'm definitely not afraid to look like a NASCAR vehicle here. So we'll do that. But for Stephen Willis, Jeb Beecham, and Jake Thomas, I am Corey Burton. This is the SEC After Dark. So long. Until next time, go Dogs.
Hotty toddy.
Go Big Orange.
Roll Tide.